I got pregnant by my ex after an emotional farewell period before my wedding. My fiancé found out and exposed me in front of all the guests. I lost everything, even my son. My name is Julia, I am 29 years old, and I am a literature teacher at a private school. I was always a focused person, never one to get into trouble, and my love life has always been discreet. I am proud of my career and the students I have taught over the years. I am an only child, and I have always felt the weight of being the family's example. When I met Mauricio, I was in a quiet phase, focused on work and without great romantic emotions. He appeared like the kind of man we only imagine in books, kind, stable, affectionate. I thought life had finally rewarded me. Mauricio, who was then 34 years old, is a dentist, a methodical, calm, and extremely rational guy. He was not exactly the most spontaneous guy in the world, but he compensated by being reliable and always there. He came from a traditional family with very strict values about fidelity, marriage, and honor. I always admired the way he treated his mother and the affection he had for his nephews. He made everything seem safe and solid, and I, who always had a weakness for chaos and poetry, found in his stability a place to rest. He asked me for calm, routine, and peace, things I sometimes did not know how to give. We met at a mutual friends gathering, and from the beginning, the conversation flowed as if we had known each other for years. Our first date was simple. A coffee, a walk, a lot of laughter. A few months later, we were already inseparable. The relationship seemed too natural, the kind you only see in movies that show couples who end up together in the end. It was not long before we started living together. Cohabitation was peaceful, almost automatic. We respected each other a lot. Fights were rare. When they happened, they never lasted more than a day. I really believed I was living my happy ending. After 2 years together, he proposed to me during a trip to a cabin in the countryside. It was simple, romantic, intimate. He knew I hated exaggerations. I said yes with teary eyes, believing that was what I wanted for the rest of my life. We started planning everything together: date, guest list, ceremony style. His family was very excited. Mine, then, is not even mentioned. It was as if everything was falling into place perfectly. I did not imagine that this choice, which seemed to be the pinnacle of my love life, would one day become my biggest regret. Our relationship had a very calm dynamic. He worked a lot, and so did I, and sometimes it seemed like we functioned more like roommates than a couple in love. Passion gave way to collaboration, routine, and planning. I am not saying it was bad for me at all, but I began to feel a strange emptiness. That kind of feeling you do not even want to name because you know that if you do, you might have to admit that something is not right. Instead, I swallowed the discomfort and focused on the marriage. After all, that is what you do, right? You commit, you build, you continue. There were small things that bothered me: his way of avoiding deeper conversations, the way he always prioritized work, the silence in the evenings when I wanted connection and he just wanted to sleep. But I told myself that was normal, that all couples go through phases like that. There was no betrayal, no shouting, no disrespect. It was just a silent absence, and I chose to ignore the signs. I did not know at the time that this silence I chose to accept would be precisely the space where the ghosts of my past would find an opening to return. Before Mauricio, there was Gabriel. He was my first true love, the kind that marks you and leaves scars. We dated for almost 4 years on and off, with intense fights and even more intense reconciliations. Gabriel was the complete opposite of Mauricio: impulsive, passionate, a little lost, but always full of life. He made me feel things I could not even name, but at the same time, he left me exhausted. Our relationship ended because I got tired of not knowing what to expect from the next day. I am tired of broken promises, jealousy, disappearances. And yet, when it ended, it hurt a lot. The last time I spoke with Gabriel was about 2 years before the engagement. After that, we just blocked each other from everything. But out of nowhere, 3 months before my wedding, he appeared. He sent me a simple and powerful message: "I dreamed of you. I am happy for you. Can I call you one of these days?" My heart raced. I should have ignored it, I knew, but I replied, He said everything was fine, that life had moved on. He said he just wanted to hear my voice, that he did not want to bother me at all. We scheduled a call that turned into a long, nostalgic, and heavy conversation. Deep down, I knew I was playing with fire, but the excuse I gave myself was that I needed to close that chapter, that it was important to enter the marriage with everything resolved. A big lie I made up to justify what my heart already wanted to do. During that call, he cried. He said he still dreamed of me, that he loved me more than himself, that it had taken him a while to understand how much he had lost. I was shocked. I cried too, and we agreed to meet just to talk. I said just to end this, I repeated, but deep down, I knew this meeting was more about rekindling than ending. We met one afternoon in a park we used to go to together. He looked the same, but with a calmer, sadder look. He gave me a long hug, the kind that breaks you. We talked for hours, we laughed at old things, we remembered our places, our music, our crazy moments. At some point, the mood changed. The silence was filled with tension, and there, on that wooden bench, with the whole city moving normally around us, he rested his forehead against mine and asked me, "Do you still love me a little?" I did not answer. I just closed my eyes and let it happen. That night, we went to his apartment. There was no rush, it was not wild, it was not impulsive in the physical sense. It was slow, painful, emotional. It was as if we were burying everything with our bodies, a real goodbye. I cried during it, he did too, and at the end, he said, "Now I can let you go." But it was not the end. The truth is that after that night, we saw each other again and had sex practically every day for almost 3 months, until a week before my wedding. It was like an emotional drug I could not quit. I swore to myself that it would die there, that I would continue with Mauricio, that I would bury that phase in the depths of my soul. I returned home, shattered but determined to pretend that none of it had happened. I did not tell anyone, not even my best friend. After that, Gabriel disappeared again. He did not look for me, he did not send me a message, he did not appear on social media, and I did not go after him either. I buried everything and went back to my routine with Mauricio as if I were an actress on stage. But there was something different about me, a more tired look, a constant feeling that I had crossed a line from which I could never return. I tried to convince myself that it was just a relapse, a slip-up that would never happen again. But the truth is that at that moment, I had already cheated on the man who was going to be my husband, and I knew that sooner or later, the price would come. I started to feel strange the following week, after I stopped seeing Gabriel, that is, the week before the wedding. My body felt more tired, my mood was a mess, and I started to feel sick from smells that did not bother me before. I thought it was stress. The last few months had been an emotional roller coaster, and the wedding was getting closer and closer. The tight routine, the pressure of the ceremony, the silent guilt, all of it made me think that my body was simply reacting to the tension. But something inside me, an instinct I did not want to listen to, already knew. I already knew exactly what it was. I bought a drug test at a pharmacy far from home, with sunglasses and a hood, as if I were committing a crime. I took the test, trembling. When the second line appeared, I just froze. I sat on the bathroom floor and just stayed there, staring into space for a good few minutes. My heart was beating so hard that it felt like the whole building could hear it. I cried like never before, because at that moment, I knew I could no longer pretend. I had no idea how to deal with it, and more than anything, I knew that the baby was not Mauricio's. The reason I was so sure haunted me. Mauricio and I always used condoms in all our relationships, without exception. He insisted on this. He said he wanted to plan everything well, and that he would only have children after marriage. I respected that, although sometimes I wanted to open that possibility. With Gabriel, it was different. I made a point of having sex without a condom. It was like an act of surrender, of intensity, of blind passion. And more than that, I loved feeling him finish inside me, leaving me full, feeling him satisfied. What I did was visceral, inconsequential, as if my body were seeking everything I was missing in silence with Mauricio. Many times I did not even clean myself immediately so I could feel him inside me for longer. We were still having sex, of course, Mauricio and I, but not with the frequency or the intensity or the right timing to justify that positive. I knew with absolute certainty that the father was Gabriel. That gave me a panic I had never felt before. I thought about telling them both the truth. I thought about disappearing. I thought about all the possible options, and none of them seemed viable to me. Shame consumed me, guilt crushed me, and yet, a part of me felt something strange, as if despite everything, that life inside me was a kind of deserved punishment. I chose to hide. This was the most cowardly decision of my life, and I know it, but I was terrified. I did not want to lose Mauricio. I did not want to go through the humiliation of admitting that I had cheated on him and gotten pregnant by my ex weeks before the wedding. So I started to build little lies that grew day by day. When he asked me why I was sick, I told him it was my stomach. When I mentioned the delay in my period, I said it was because of stress. And when he started to suggest that I get tested, I made up that I had already gone and that everything was fine. The weight of lying while the wedding vows were being prepared was unbearable. Writing promises of fidelity, loyalty, and truth while hiding another man's child in my womb was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Sometimes I found myself looking at my reflection and asking, "Who have you become?" But soon I would take a deep breath and go back to the party schedule, the buffet group, choosing the flowers. I forced myself to think that maybe if I pretended long enough, everything would disappear, that even the baby could be accepted, that no one would need to know. That time would find a way to hide the chaos. There was a moment when I almost told everything. It was one night when we were watching TV, and he rested his head on my lap, playing at guessing names for his children. He was smiling, and I almost said it. I opened my mouth, I felt the words in my throat, but I swallowed, because at that moment, I realized that it was not just the fear of losing Mauricio, it was the fear of losing myself, of facing everything I had done, of admitting that no matter how much I loved the security he gave me, I decided to destroy it with my own hands. And that hurt more than any nausea. The days started to pass faster than I could keep up. The wedding was just a week away, and everything seemed to be on autopilot. The schedule was packed with final meetings with suppliers, the final dress fitting, schedule adjustments, a visit to the ceremony hall, and a food tasting. I smiled in photos, I uploaded them to the internet, I commented excitedly in groups, but inside, I was falling apart. It was as if I were watching someone else live that life. I looked at myself in the mirror in the white dress, and all I could think was, "You do not deserve this." And yet, I continued. Mauricio was beaming. He talked about the wedding with a sparkle in his eye, making sure to participate in every detail. I saw in his face the pure, peaceful love he felt for me. It broke me to pieces, because the more he showed love, the more I felt like a fraud. Sometimes he would talk to his friends about his plans for the future, about the children he wanted to have with me, about the honeymoon trip, and I would smile. I would pretend once again. I do not know how I managed to hold that lie for so long. Maybe because deep down, I still believed there was time to save everything. During that time, my relationship with Gabriel had ended forever. The last time we saw each other was exactly 7 days before the wedding. I said I could not continue with this, that I needed to get married and try to erase it all. He did not beg. He just looked at me with the same look as always, a mixture of pain and hurt pride. "You are choosing a mistake instead of something real," he said, and I replied, "I am choosing peace." But it was a lie. I was choosing fear of the scandal, of the exposure, of losing everything, and above all, fear of facing the truth. No one suspected anything, not my best friend, not my mother, not my school colleagues. I was so good at hiding it that sometimes I could almost convince myself that nothing had happened. I could even manipulate my body. I started wearing looser clothes, hiding any changes and avoiding any conversation about doctors or exams. When someone asked me if I was okay, I smiled and said it was just pre-wedding anxiety. A part of me hoped that something would happen, that the universe would stop me from going through with it. But he was silent. He let me choose. The days before the wedding were the most agonizing of my life. I felt suffocated, as if I were carrying a time bomb in my womb. Every time I saw Mauricio sleeping next to me, calm, oblivious to everything. My stomach would turn. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confess everything, to apologize, to beg for a chance to start over cleanly. But the fear was paralyzing. The fear of judgment, of public humiliation, of seeing my family shattered, of becoming a joke on social media. All of this kept me silent. And so I remained quiet every day. The day before the wedding, I had a crying fit hidden in the beauty salon's bathroom. The other brides were laughing, exchanging stories, and celebrating. I was locked in a stall, sobbing silently. It was not just guilt, it was desperation. The kind of desperation you feel when you know you are about to cross a line of no return. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, and for the first time, I felt disgusted with myself, not for what I had done, but for the cowardice of continuing to pretend. Still, I came out of the stall, I dried my face, I forced a smile, and I went to rehearse the entrance with my father. I do not know exactly when Mauricio started to suspect. He was never the jealous type. He never looked at my cell phone or questioned my outings. But over time, I think the small slips added up, a lost look, an uncomfortable silence when he talked about the future, a touch of hesitation when he hugged me. And maybe it was instinct, that sixth sense we have when we truly love someone. He began to observe more, paying attention to my schedule, my messages, my mood. And although I was scared, I kept pretending that everything was under control. 2 days before the wedding, he had access to my old cell phone, the one I used before changing my number and deleting my tracks with Gabriel. I thought I had deleted everything, but I had left an archived folder in the drive backup. And there were photos, messages, and audios, things I did not even remember sending, records of nights together, of intimate conversations, of confessions. And the worst, a video made without my knowledge on one of the nights I was with Gabriel. It did not show everything, but it made it very clear what was happening. It was impossible to deny. Mauricio did not confront me immediately. He acted in silence, with surgical coldness. Instead of shouting, crying, or kicking me out of the house, he organized everything in a ruthlessly efficient way. He created an email, he attached the video, printed copies of the messages, photos of us at the motel, extracts of conversations, and sent it to all the wedding guests, family, friends, coworkers, even some more distant acquaintances. The subject was simple: wedding cancellation. When I found out, my world collapsed. The family group was in shock. The messages came like an avalanche. I panicked. My cell phone exploded with notifications, calls, messages from people who did not know what to say. Some asked if it was true, others, more direct, called me disgusting, fake, selfish. Mauricio's parents immediately blocked me. My own uncles began to say that I was a disgrace. My friends disappeared. And the worst was seeing my family's faces, pure disappointment, a mixture of disgust and anger. My mother was crying, my father could not even look at me. It was as if I had died and woken up at a funeral where everyone wished I did not exist. I went to Mauricio's house that same day. I begged him to listen to me. He opened the door, he looked me in the eye and said, "You have no idea what you destroyed." I tried to explain myself, I tried to say that I had lost my way, that I regretted it. He simply said, "I am angry because you thought you could deceive me until the end." And he closed the door. At that moment, the penny dropped. There was no going back. I was not just the woman who cheated, I was the woman who, pregnant by another, tried to swear eternal love in front of everyone. And everyone knew it. Days later, while I was still trying to bear the weight of the exposure, my body began to fail. I had heavy bleeding, fever, intense pain. I ended up being rushed to the hospital alone. Gabriel disappeared. Mauricio did not even want to know. My mother could barely look at me. And there, on a gray dawn, I lost my baby, the baby who was the consequence of my mistake, but was still mine. I cried in silence with a nurse holding my hand. For the first time, I felt truly empty. I had no one else, not even that little life that was growing inside me. After losing the baby, I was hospitalized for 2 more days. The doctors said that emotional stress was a determining factor. I wanted to say that was all, but the truth is that my body gave up on me. I could not cry anymore. It was as if all my tears had already run out. I remained silent, looking at the white ceiling, trying to understand where exactly I had lost my way. No messages, no visits, no gestures of affection. Even the silence seemed to judge me. When I was discharged, I walked alone to the bus stop, carrying a bag with my documents and nothing else. I tried to go back to my parents' house, but my father did not even open the door. My mother came out. She looked at me with teary eyes and said, "You have to face this alone." Hearing this from the person who used to comfort me when I had a fever was like a knife. I went back to the small apartment I shared with Mauricio, or rather, shared until he changed the lock and left all my things in a black bag in front of the door. I felt like a piece of trash, not even my underwear was separated. I took the bags and took them to a college friend's house who had not blocked me yet. I stayed on the couch for 2 weeks. The school closed its doors to me. That hurt me in a way I did not even expect. I loved teaching. My students, until then, sent me affectionate messages saying they missed me. But after the scandal, everything became a laughing matter. They made a montage with my face. They used my story as a joke in a WhatsApp group. I saw my name become a meme. And I, who had always been discreet, who fled from the shacks of exposure, was being swallowed by a wave of public shame. I could not even go out to buy bread without feeling eyes drilling into my back. Gabriel sent me a short message after hearing about the miscarriage. He said, "I am sorry." Just that, nothing more. He did not ask if I was okay. He did not offer to help me. It was as if he had also erased our history. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he hated me for having chosen Mauricio in the end. But the truth is that even if he wanted to be close, I did not want to see him. Because it was with him that I crossed the line. It was with him that I lost my way. And now every memory of him stung like acid on my skin. Love turned into rejection. Desire turned into anger. I started having panic attacks at night. I would wake up breathless, sweating, and with a racing heart. The sound of a cell phone notification made me nauseous. Any laughter on the street made me think they were talking about me. I could not eat or sleep. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I tried to seek psychological help through the public health system, but the queue was endless. I thought about selling my things. I thought about disappearing from the city. I even wrote a farewell letter, but I did not have the courage to finish it. Deep down, something in me still wanted to survive, even if it was to pay for everything I had caused. The consequences were not only social and emotional. Economically, I was broke. I lost my salary, my stability, my reputation. I had to sell my car to pay for rent and food. I started giving private online classes, hiding my face and changing my name on my profiles. To this day, I avoid showing my identity. The fear of being recognized still haunts me. And even with the passage of time, the feeling of being watched never disappeared. Sometimes I wake up feeling that it was all a bad dream, but then I remember the pain in my body, the weight in my chest, and I know that everything was too real. Carrying the guilt was like living with a stone in my chest every day. It was not just about Mauricio. It was about me, about the baby, about my family, about the students who believed in me. It was because I was a coward, because I did not stop sooner, because I let myself be carried away by a destructive emotion. Sometimes I found myself writing long texts, trying to justify everything, but deep down I knew there was no justification. What I did was wrong, just like that. And knowing this was devouring me from within. For months, I avoided any kind of deeper human contact. I pretended I was fine when I was teaching online, but I would turn off the camera and break down. I could not trust anyone. I thought everyone was going to point at me, remind me, punish me. And the worst part is that many times it was not even necessary. I punished myself. I relived everything in a loop, remembering the moments when I could have stopped, the nights when I would leave Gabriel's bed and go straight to the table with Mauricio, how she looked him in the eye and lied. That became my daily penance. I started writing in a diary. It was the only way to get those thoughts out of my head. It was not therapy, but it provided me with some relief. I put everything there, without a filter, regrets, longings, shames, memories. Sometimes I would tear up the pages, angry with myself. Other times, I would hug the notebook as if it were the only thing that still accepted me. It was strange. I wanted to be forgiven, but I did not feel I deserved forgiveness. I wanted to move on, but I could not let go of the guilt. It was as if my past had branded me with a hot iron, and now I was it. I tried to contact a volunteer psychologist through an NGO. It was one of the first steps out of the hole. She did not judge me. She listened to me, and she made me realize that despite everything, existing was not about erasing what happened, but about understanding why it happened. I began to accept that I was not a monster, but a broken person who made terrible decisions. The process was slow, painful, but it gave me the strength to start looking forward with a minimum of hope, still very hurt, still without a direction, but alive. Some people started to come back, little by little. A former university friend sent me a message saying she knew I was not what they said. A former student found me online and said he missed my classes. Small gestures that, however simple, gave me a little warmth. I was never the same again. The trust one had in people and in myself was broken. But I began to understand that starting over was not about pretending that nothing had happened. It was living despite what had happened. And that, as difficult as it was something. Little by little, I began to recreate a routine, taking care of my health, trying to eat better, walking in the mornings, breathing without fear of being recognized. Still scared, still with scars, but walking. The new beginning was neither beautiful nor inspiring. It was a lonely, hard, and silent situation. But it was real. And although I had lost everything, even my son, there I began to rebuild myself, brick by brick, pain by pain, and for once, no lies. Today, almost 2 years after everything, I still carry the marks of that stage. Some scars have closed, others still itch from time to time, reminding us that they will never disappear completely. I live alone now, in a simple neighborhood. I teach literature online under a different name. I have not set foot in a physical classroom since it all happened. Sometimes when I talk about tragedies in novels with my students, I think about how my own story seems like one of those that we read with anger towards the protagonist. And maybe that is exactly what I deserve. I do not know exactly where Mauricio is today. I hear that he went back to work with everything, that he is traveling, that he has a new girlfriend. I am happy for him. He did not deserve what I did to him. Sometimes I wonder what our lives would have been like if I had been honest, if I had just had the courage to face my confused feelings before sinking into chaos. But then I remember that life does not give do-overs, and that regret does not change anything, it only teaches. And if I have learned anything from all this, it is that the truth, however painful, is always worth more than a well-told lie. As for Gabriel, he disappeared from my life completely. He blocked my social media, he changed his number, and I never heard from him again. Sometimes I think it was for the best. I do not know if what I felt for him was love or lack, but I know that what we experienced was destructive. I gave myself to him as if I were trying to fill a hole that he did not even know existed, and the price was everything. Today I understand that it was not what I really wanted, but the adrenaline of escaping from monotony, the illusion of being alive, of feeling something. But living at the expense of illusion has a high cost. I still have bad days. I still have nightmares. I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking that everything is going to happen again. But today, contrary to what I felt before, I can get up, I can look in the mirror and say, you made a mistake, but you are still here. I had to lose everything to understand that self-love is not born from forgiving others, but from facing our own ghosts. I had to take off all my masks, to face the Julia I did not want to see, to be able to rebuild myself with some honesty. And that, as cruel as it was liberating. If you are waiting for redemption, I do not know if I have it. If you are waiting for a happy ending, I cannot promise that either. But if you want to know if it is possible to continue after making so many mistakes, the answer is yes. It hurts, it costs, it hurts, but it is possible. There is no magic, there is no going back, but there is a way, a difficult, lonely but real path. One step at a time, one day at a time. I still stumble, I still question myself, I still feel ashamed, but I keep going because stopping would be surrendering to the worst part of me. And that part, I left it there, behind. The biggest lesson from all this is to never underestimate the power of the truth. Never play with someone's heart just because yours is broken. Never treat love as a distraction. And never, ever think that you can control the consequences of a lie. I thought I could hide, calculate, and solve everything on my own. I thought love was enough. But it would have been enough to tell the truth, to have faced the end with dignity, to have had the courage not to drag anyone into my abyss. If I could go back, I would have done everything differently. But since I cannot, I can only continue, really and with regret.